The object of a rave party is to go berserk, to rage out of control to music that's ear-splitting in venues that are off limits. And until the death of Anna Wood last year, they were dismissed as just a harmless excess of youth. It was the manner of Anna Wood's death that changed the thinking about rave parties. She died from taking the drug ecstasy. The ravers say it was a freak accident. But to most, this drug and this youth culture have become inseparably linked. It's well after midnight in inner city Sydney. And tonight, the hundreds of dancers here, some only 11 and 12 years old, will rave on until after dawn. Most of us don't know any of this techno music the dancers rave to and rave about. We've only heard about the illegal drug so many of them take to keep them smiling all night. The drug is the amphetamine ecstasy.
It just puts you in a really good mood, makes you very friendly, doesn't make you violent, just makes you like, you feel like everything's good and like there's nothing wrong and you just...
Is that why everyone's so happy? Why they're all smiling?
Yes and no. Some people just, naturally like that, and some people are happy because they're on drugs.
How would you describe the feeling?
Just an escape from reality. It takes you away from the problems of the real world for a few hours, but after you come off it, you're back to the same old problems. It doesn't really solve anything.
I wanna see the rainbow high in the sky. I wanna see you and me on a bird flying away.
Unlike nicotine or heroin, ecstasy is not an addictive drug. Is it a dangerous drug? Well, it can be. What we can say with certainty is that thousands of young Australians are taking ecstasy every weekend. 2 of them are now dead. Cherie Horn is 14 and a high school student. For the past year, she's spent most of her Saturday nights at rave parties. And she's experimented with quite a few of the party drugs. When you've been out all night, dancing your butts off and doing drugs, how do you pull up the next day on the Sunday morning?
Well, if I've got school, I spend the entire next day sleeping. Just go home and sleep so I'm all right for school on Monday. But
does it affect your schoolwork?
Raves are just for the weekend. On the weekend for me, it's just, I don't know, something to do on the weekend. By, I don't know, halfway through Monday, I'm usually fine. Just all excited about the next one next weekend.
Perhaps surprising is that Cherie's mother, Pauline, knows just what her daughter gets up to.
I'd say in the last 12 months she's probably tried an ecstasy tablet, she's probably tried marijuana. Well, she hasn't probably. She has.
Do you ever feel that it's risky? I mean, do you ever take one thinking, yeah, gee, I hope this is okay?
Oh, but if you take it, you've got to take that risk. Like, if you're the one that's going to take it, if you want to take it, if you don't know the risk, you're pretty blind. But after what happened to Anna, I think a lot of people have wisened up a lot.
But can you honestly say it's made you think, geez, I'll never take another drug?
No, it doesn't make you think, geez, I'll never take that again, but it makes you a little bit more cautious. It makes you slow down a lot.
Anna Wood died last October after taking an ecstasy tablet at a rave party in Sydney. She was 15.
The word rave does connotate drugs, and that's what you do when you go to raves. And I think if Anna hadn't been to the rave, she definitely wouldn't have taken the drugs, and she'd still be here today.
The thrill of the rave scene so excited Anna Wood, she snuck out of home that night. Her older sister Alice thought she was safe at a friend's house watching videos. How would you have reacted if Anna had told you before that party that she was going to take ecstasy that night?
Well, she wouldn't have told me because she knew that I would have reacted and said no, and don't be so stupid. But all her friends were doing it and they were all having a good time, so all she could say, why can't I?
Yeah, she wasn't a drug taker, but you know, you take it that night doesn't mean you drug taker. You know, you could just take it experimentally.
Sonny Dyer was a friend of Anna's. He was partying with her that night and is still trying to come to terms with what happened when Anna became sick. Why do you think no one took her to hospital?
Don't know, but I mean, maybe they think, oh, you can, recover or something like that.
But I mean, if
Without
you see someone looking faint or throwing up, that wouldn't ring alarm bells.
It happens when you take drugs. Like, you see it everywhere. People just pass out or whatever. You don't do anything about it.
That Anna Wood was a very normal teenager from a very model family might help explain the torrent of public anger her death unleashed. Anger directed squarely at the rave scene and promoters like Tony Papworth.
There are a lot of people that come to the events because they enjoy the music, they like to dance, they like the environment. Some of them choose to experiment with drugs, a lot of them don't. I can't make that decision for them. I mean, what people fail to understand is that the closing down the dance parties is not going to solve the drug problem.
I guess the argument is that people like yourself who promote and stage these events provide the motivation and the opportunity for kids to do drugs.
But I mean, if we want to use some examples. The weekend that Anna Wood died, 6 teenagers died in Sydney from a direct result of alcohol. 6.
Almost without exception, these teenagers feel misunderstood by a generation of adults down on them for doing something different. Adults unwilling to accept that a raver's drug of choice isn't alcohol. And there are ravers who don't take party drugs, like David and Gemma King. You've never tried any of them?
No, that's not.
We've never tried. That's the real point. With our family, that's one of the reasons why we're allowed to go. We don't touch any drugs. And we don't have any feeling, Sonny, me or Gemma or any other of my friends for that matter, we don't want to have any drugs because we know we can have a good time when we're straight.
It's this computer-generated music that gives David and Gemma their high, throbbing away at upwards of 150 beats per minute.
That's the thing I notice most with ravers, is that they're always smiling the whole time. More so than any other crowd, rock, dance, they're always happy.
The stars of the rave scene are the DJs, and the best by far is Pee Wee Ferris. Pee Wee does a lot more than spin discs. He creates his own music in this studio. Styles with weird names a world away from rock and roll. Okay, maybe I'm not listening. Maybe I'm not listening to it properly. But it does seem very monotonous.
A lot of people say that about classical, when they don't understand it.
Okay, well, prove me wrong when I say it sounds all the same.
Okay, we'll go through a few.
Yo, DJ, let's go with those feet.
Yes, piano. So this is Happy Hard. It's got pianos and it's uplifting, fast. That's basically the whole idea of Happy Hard. Then you've got New Energy, which is basically trance. Still fast, all fast. That's the rave is generally fast music. 160 beats a minute.
So how do you dance to it?
You throw your hands up in the air. That's what they do.
Despite what everyone says about ravers being happy and easygoing, it took months of persuasion and negotiation for 60 Minutes to get into a rave party and to get anyone to talk about what goes on there. If I wanted to buy anything, if I wanted to buy any drugs at this rave party tonight, what is likely to be available there?
Probably speed, ecstasy, and acid.
LSD.
Maybe a bit of marijuana.
I mean, fair enough, people may have drugs and shit, but you have it in moderation. You watch what you have.
There seemed to be plenty of kids here tonight taking drugs. Lots of them looked like they should have been tucked up in bed. and their parents probably wished they were.
But I do think that that's really bad, how parents and things like that, kids can't come and enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy what goes on. I think that's really cool.
So what would you be doing if you weren't here?
Probably sitting at home with a bunch of friends bored shitless. Yeah.
Well, it's after 5 o'clock, the sun's coming up. I'm ready for bed, but they're still dancing in there. Yes, it's loud and it's fast, and perhaps you don't recognise the dance steps, but look around. I mean, it is surprisingly tame, and it's been like this all night. Pee-wee Ferris is firing, and Cherie and her friends plan to be thrashing about on the dance floor for a few hours yet.
Come on. See you later.
This isn't how Cherie planned to arrive home for Sunday breakfast with her mum.
I feel sick. I've been sick for the past 4 hours.
How come?
I don't know.
Do you want to go?
Do you want a cup of coffee or something, or a cup of tea? Do you want a lemonade and make your tummy feel better?
Do you want to go up to bed? Yeah?
You do.
Does this make you worry when she comes home like this?
When she comes home like this, it would, but she doesn't do it very regularly, as I say, and I think that it's basically, I would say she's dehydrated, and not eating, of course, affects it.
Do you think she's taken drugs tonight?
No. I look at her eyes, believe it or not. I'm not, excuse me, I'm not a prudish mother. I have a good look at her to see whether she's in any condition that I should know more about. I'm not saying she's an angel, because she's far from an angel. She's anything but an angel. But I think she's honest with me. That to me counts one hell of a lot.
Pauline's attitude may be way too liberal for many parents. After all, Cherie is only 14. But as she says, at least she knows where her daughter is at night.
My daughter hasn't done it behind my back. My daughter's done it with my blessing, because as I say, I know that she's there. I'm not going to get a knock on my door and somebody say to me, did you know your daughter was somewhere? And I've got to turn around and say no. Somebody knocks on my door and say, you know, there's something happened to Cherie. I'll at least be able to say, well, my God, I let her go there. I knew what I was in for. Do you want to go now, darling? Go on, off you go. Say good night. Oh, you go in the bathroom. She's going to wash your face, I'd say.
Much of the controversy about raves has to do with a story as old as time. The lack of understanding between generations. But there is a worrying difference between the ravers of the 90s and, say, the stompers of the 60s. And that is that kids are indulging in drugs at a younger and younger age. Like Anna Wood, many don't really know what chemicals their drugs contain, and they're too naive to understand how their young bodies could react to them.
The answer is education. Until we give them that information, they're at a loose end. They don't know what... They're making a big mistake. And as far as I'm concerned, it's all wrong, and it's our responsibility.